Okay, polynomials. So the first little bit here, there's terminology you need to know. Okay, and by I'm not going to ask you to memorize it, but you'll see the words pop up every once in a while, so you need to understand what they mean. Some of them you may know already. So a variable. What is a variable in math?
It's usually like a letter that's used to represent something that may be in the equation.
That's it. It's just a letter. All right, that's all a variable is. All right, it's a lot of the times it's X or Y, but it doesn't have to be.
A letter. A letter.
A letter, yeah.
Okay.
It's a letter.
Shh. Term. A term is when a number is multiplied by one or more variables. And it's raised to a whole number exponent or power, including 0. So something like 3x squared is a term. All right? You've got a number. Now the number could be 1, so you wouldn't see it. You have a variable, and you have an exponent. Okay? However, you are not allowed to have negative or fractional exponents for it to be a polynomial or a term. Okay? Now, fractional exponents, you don't study those until grade 11. So for you just have to remember, if you see literally a fractional exponent, like you see x to the power of a half out automatically, but also if you see the square root of x or the cube root of x or the fourth root of x, the fifth root of x, those are fractional exponents because a fractional exponent actually means the square root. But again, that's not part of this course. Just if you see that, you know it's not a polynomial. Okay? So if I gave you these questions here and I said, are these terms? Is 5y to the 7 a term? You just have to ask yourself, does it have a fractional exponent or a negative exponent? Does it? 5y to the 7? It does not, so it is a term. Does x squared have a fractional or negative exponent? Does it? Well, do you see a fractional or a negative exponent? So it doesn't, right? So it has to be a term. Does c have a fraction or a negative exponent? Exponent. That's not an exponent, that's a coefficient. Okay, which you'll see in a sec. The exponents are positive. So this is a term. What about d? Does it have a fraction or negative exponent? Which is 1/2 is a fraction, right? 0.5 is 1/2, so it's a fraction. So this is not a term. What about e? What's the exponent on e? It's 1. Remember? If there's no number written, it is 1. So this is a term. What about f? So again, it's beyond the scope of this course, but if you see a variable in the denominator, it means you have a negative exponent, so it's not a term. Are you stretching or raising your hand? And g, are we allowed to have any square roots or cube roots or anything like that? No. All right. A polynomial is when you take one or more terms and add them together or subtract them. Okay? So again, for it to be a polynomial, it's terms put together. Terms cannot have negative or positive exponents. So is this a polynomial? Yes, it is. Is B a polynomial? Look at the exponents. Don't look at the numbers in front. Does it? It is a polynomial because the exponent is 1. Is C a polynomial? It is because the exponents are all good. And D? No, because we've got a negative exponent and we have a fractional. So nope. Okay. The constant term. Constant term in a polynomial is the term with no variable. So in the polynomial 12x squared plus 2x minus 5, what's the constant term? Which one of these, this one, or this one, has no variable? The 5. But you always take the sign that is in front. Okay? So you would say the constant term is negative 5. All right. The variable term, I don't really use that term very much, or that terminology. It's just a term that has a variable in it. So that's a variable term. All right. It differs from the constant term because the constant term has no variable. And a coefficient is the number part of the variable. So in this, what is the coefficient? It's the number in front of the variable. So in this case, it's -2. Okay. Ooh. All right. Okay, degree. This is kind of a bit weird. So the degree of the polynomial is the highest exponent in any term. So the first thing you do is you look at your polynomial. So here's our polynomial. What's the highest exponent in here? 8, right? So that means the degree of that polynomial is 8. If you have more than one variable, okay, in a term, you add the exponents. So in this polynomial here, you look for ones that have multiple variables because, well, you don't have to, but they do. This one here. So if I add the exponents in this term, what do I get? You're going to get 6, right? 4 plus 2 is 6. But there's also this one here. Oops. What's the exponent? If I add them together here? I'm going to get 12. So which is higher, 6 or 12? So the degree of this polynomial is 12. All right. A monomial is one term. So that's like 2x. That's one single term. A binomial is 2 terms. So if I wrote 2x plus 1 or 3x squared minus 5, there's 2 terms. And terms are separated by addition or subtraction signs, like we said before. A trinomial, is how many? 3. So that'd be like 2x squared plus 5x plus 1. 3 separate terms you can see. Anything beyond that, you would just say is a polynomial. Do you know what poly means? Multiple or many. All right. Okay. Let's see if we can fill in this table together on the other side. All right. So 5x plus 3. What are the variables in that term? It's just x. Whatever the letter is, that is your variable. How many terms are there in that polynomial? 2, right? 1, 2. And the terms are 5x and 3. What are the coefficients? What number? Coefficient is a number in front of the variable. So 5. What is the constant term? The term that doesn't change? 3, because it has no variable with it. What is the degree of this polynomial? 1. That's right. The highest exponent is 1. And is this a monomial, binomial, or a trinomial? Binomial. All right. Second one. What are the variables? X and y. How many terms are there? 3 terms, and they are 2x squared, negative 12y, and negative 7. She wrote them out separately. What are the coefficients? What numbers are in front of the letters? 2 and not 12, negative 12. You always take the sign that is in front of the number. Okay. What is the constant term? Not just 7. Negative 7. You always take the number that is in front. What is the degree? 2. The highest exponent is 2. And this would be a trinomial. All right. Last one. Negative 8. What's the variable? There is no variable. Boom. What is the term? Negative 8. There's only one of them. What's the coefficient? What is the definition of a coefficient? Number that's in front of the variable, right? Is there a variable? So is there a coefficient? What's the constant term? Negative 8. What's the degree? It does have a degree. Sorry? What'd you say? Oh, there is a degree. It's not 1. Why is it 0? Can't be negative, right? Can't have a negative exponent. So the degree is 0, and this is why. I could write it like this. What's anything to the 0 power? 1. So that would just give me negative 8. So the degree is 0. If there's no variable, the degree is 0. Okay? Because I was going to write negative 1, but then I changed it. So it's just negative 8. The answer is negative 8. Do you want me to erase that and write a proper 8? I could write this. Is that better? You like that better? What's 1 times negative 8? Negative 8. All right. What are we confused about? It always makes 1, but what has the 0 power? The x, not the -8, right? If I wrote it like this, if I did that, then it would be 1. But because it's just the x.
Wouldn't it still be 1 because -8 has an exponent of 1?
Yeah. Oh, that just means -8, right?
The degree is the highest exponent.
On the variable. Sorry, on the variable. Because otherwise, -8 to the power of 2 is 16. So that's just a coefficient. All right. All right. Monomial, binomial, or trinomial? Monomial. Okay. All right. Coefficient, number in front of the variable. Degree, highest exponent. Variable is just the letter. Can have negative exponents or fractional exponents to be a polynomial. All right. Here's your questions in the book. Books are up here, or you've got them on your phone. Work through those questions, and then we're going to move on to everybody's favorite thing, algebra tiles. All right, algebra tiles. So it's based around the area. Okay, so area is length times width. So the first one here is what shape? Square. The yellow big one there is a square. And what it is this is an x, a length of x. This is a width of x. So if you multiplied and got the area of that, it'd be x times x, which is x squared. Okay, so the big yellow, or in your case, the lightly colored one, represents an x squared. If it's red or dark, it represents a negative x squared. This rectangle has side x and a width of 1. So what does it represent if I ask for the area of it? X times 1, which is just x. So a rectangle that is lightly colored or yellow represents x. A rectangle that is red or dark on your sheet represents negative x. Okay? And what do you think this little tiny box or square here represents? 1. And what does this red one represent? -1. That's it. So these are what you need to remember. I'm going to erase all this other stuff. Oh, that's the 1. That's what you need to remember. The lightly colored or the yellow ones on mine represent x squared or positive values, and the red ones represent negative values. So if this is our polynomial, a bunch of pictures, how many x squareds do we have? 1, 2, 3. So that means we have 3x squared. What do the rectangles represent? Negative x, right? A rectangle represents negative x when it's red. How many do we have? So it means there's negative 2x. And what do the tiny little squares represent? 1. How many of them do we have?
2.
Are they positive or negative?
Negative. Positive.
Positive, so it's plus 2. So those 3 squares, 2 rectangles and 2 boxes, represent 3x squared minus 2x plus 2. That's how that polynomial is written in algebra tiles. All right. So what is the representation, or what do these polynomials represent? What's the first one? Kate, get off your phone. What does the big yellow represent? X squared. What does the rectangle yellow represent? There's 1 You could write 1x, or you can just write x. It means the same thing. And then what do the three little red squares represent?
-3.
-3. Second one.
-x, -4.
Write it as a simple term.
-2x minus 4.
I have -2x because there's two rectangles, and then there's -4. And the last one. Yep, they can be in any order. Just count the big squares. How many big squares are there?
3.
So that means I have, and they're positive or negative. So I have 3x squared. How many red rectangles do I have?
4. 4.
There's 5. And they're negative, so it's -5x. And how many yellow squares do I have? Little ones.
6.
Plus 6. That's it. You're experts.
Yep, I'm the expert.
Now we're going to go the other way.
No, thank you.
We have the polynomial, and we have to write it as algebra tiles. So, -3x squared. What do I draw to represent that? 3. Who said that? 3 red squares, right? Or dark ones on your sheet. So you can just draw them like this, and if you just fill them in, I guess since I have color, I could probably just do it in color. Okay. Then I have 4 x's. I need a yellow. So then it's 4 rectangle. Four rectangles. Ooh, that's hard in the eyes. Can you read that yellow?
Use gold. Use orange.
There we go.
Yeah. Orange is better.
Okay, and then I have 5 negative little
Rectangles
boxes.
or squares?
Those are rectangles. There we go. All right. 2x squared minus 6. How many big rectangles do I have? 2 of them. And then -6, so that means 6 little negative squares. Like that. And then -4x means I have 4 rectangles. And 2. There you go. All right. That's it. Are we okay with that? You're just drawing boxes or drawing squares and rectangles. There's your questions, peoples.